bit and just say at the end of this trial that he is found not guilty. Now, let's look at what everything that he has lost so far: businesses, relationships. I mean, things would definitely not be normal for him ever again.
No, I don't think he ever comes back from this because even if he is found not guilty of the sex trafficking and the RICO charges, we saw with our very own eyes the violence that was used against women in his life. No one's going to ever forget that Cassie hotel video. So anyone that would even think about doing business with Sean Combs is going to probably face tremendous backlash from women, from allies, and from others who believe that that kind of conduct is just completely unacceptable. So I don't think there's any coming back from this, even if there is a possibility of an acquittal.
Yeah, and there's precedent for that. I mean, just look back at the O.J. Simpson case when he was found not guilty, and he thought, the day after, next day, he could go back to his country club and have all his buddies and the lifestyle, and that was quickly he found out not the case.
Yeah, no, I think the way the public speaks out, the use of social media, the Me Too movement, don't forget about the Me Too movement, has been so powerful in bringing powerful men to prosecutions like this Sean Combs prosecution. But it also can cause someone to be canceled, can cause someone to lose very, very valuable, financially valuable relationships, and make that person a cancer of sorts, so that other companies and celebrities and others don't want to be affiliated with him. You just look at online now. Sean Combs is hard pressed to find celebrities at his level who have come to his aid. Most, I would say, have just remained silent because no one wants to suffer the wrath of, again, trying to explain how you can support someone who is engaged in the kind of violent conduct. And even his defense team, they've not tried to deny the violence that he perpetrated against women. They've denied that he's committed the crimes that he's been accused of, but they even admitted during their opening statement that if he is guilty of anything, it is guilty of domestic violence.
Yeah, that is true as well. And going back to right now, Jane on the stand, I think it's a great witness for the prosecution because she was really the last girlfriend of Sean Combs and really in this orbit, years after Cassie, and you are still seeing. Some of this testimony, you wouldn't, if you didn't have a name attached to it, you wouldn't know if it was Jane or Cassie.
So that's a great point. And Jane testified that she saw the lawsuit that Cassie Ventura filed, the lawsuit that was the impetus for this investigation and ultimately led to the prosecution. And she said there were 3 pages in that civil lawsuit that Cassie filed. And she said, made reading those 3 pages made her so sick she wanted to throw up because what Cassie described in those 3 pages was exactly the experience that she was having with Sean Combs herself, as you said, some 10 years later. And it's important to know Jane was still dating Combs right up until the time of the indictment. And according to reports, he is still paying for her legal fees, paying for perhaps even the rent on the home where she lives, and definitely providing financial support for her, even during the time that this investigation and prosecution is going on.
Yeah, and another really thing that sticks out to me with this case here is that he was still allegedly, doing these hotel nights and these different types of situations really up until the arrest.
Yeah, I think there was a sense of invincibility. I think Combs, as you know, there were rumors about his violence, rumors about some of this conduct that swirled around him for years without ever having to face any consequences. And I think when that happens, that people can develop a sense of invincibility that I am above the law, I'm above reproach, that I am untouchable. And the fact that he was still engaging in this conduct, I think, speaks to a sense that he was not going to be held accountable or that he was somehow above accountability.
Yeah, I mean, to the point of your homes were raided by the government, and then you're still thinking that you're able to have this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, I think the amount of money that he made, the lifestyle that he lived, gave him a sense of protection, gave him a sense that he was untouchable, and that his money and that he would be able to use his money. And we know there are allegations of witness tampering, witness obstruction, or obstruction of justice with respect to witnesses. And I think he believed that he could call witnesses or intimidate witnesses, and that this would all go away. It would be one big bad dream or one big bad nightmare that would go away because of his status and because of his wealth.
Yeah, that is so true. So, Ariva Martin, this was a great, wide ranging interview. I appreciate you coming on and giving us some
Thanks,
great
Mike.
insight, not only on the trial, but Sean Combs as the defendant now, and really what we are seeing up to this point. It's been a great conversation. Thank you again.
Thanks, Mike.
You take care. All right, everyone. We will continue to bring you the very latest here on this trial in just moments. Is our coverage right here on Live Now from Fox. Again, we appreciate everyone being with us here as we continue to break down the latest in this in-demand trial. Sean Combs, the ex-girlfriend Jane, is back on the stand, and the cross-examination does continue. And now I want to bring in our friend here of the program, Ben Taylor. Always great to have you on, Ben, to help us break down the latest here, legal analyst, criminal defense attorney. And Ben, today starts with, well, it looks like there's some drama going on with one of the jurors. I want to break this down to our viewers, and then Ben, you can give us what your point of view is here. We have a juror that is accused of lack of candor by prosecutors. That's how it all started today. Prosecutors seem to have requested that a juror be kicked out of the trial before the jury ended today. Sean Combs' attorney said that they were adamantly against removing the person, calling it a thinly veiled effort to dismiss a black juror. The U.S. Assistant Attorney countered that her team had researched the juror in question and saw what appeared to be a lack of candor with the court that raises serious issues here. So, Ben, what is your take on this? And first off, maybe what is a lack of candor here?
Lack of candor mainly means that the prosecutor's trying to say that the juror wasn't quite honest with the court during like jury selection. So prior to jury selection, the prosecutor and defense attorneys get to ask questions of the jurors. And they'll ask you, maybe, do you have any issues with Sean Combs? Do you have any issues with these type of charges? And basically, for example, say a juror will say, I never heard of Sean Combs, but say you go on their social media website and they have posts of pictures of with him, or a bunch of likes of liking his music.
I'm sandwiched between the two generations. I'm helping to give caregiver responsibilities to my dad.
Other, research and might have said, hey, this juror might not have been honest in their questions. Maybe not knowing Sean Combs, but maybe some other questions that they asked about whether or not you'll be biased against the prosecution or the defense. Say, for example, a juror says, I love, prosecutors, or I love defense attorneys. And then on their social media or some other things, their statements that they hate defense attorneys or they hate prosecutors, right? That means they're not being honest. So the word, candor to the court is basically saying they're not being honest with the court.
So, what are the next steps here? So, it's been brought up to the judge. What happens next here in the next maybe couple of days?
I mean, ultimately, the judge will, look at what the prosecutor has said. As you see, the defense is objecting to this. Is probably maybe a juror that they like. I mean, like Mike. So throughout this whole trial, you get to look at the jurors, right? And the jurors are going to be nodding or smiling, and maybe this is a juror that the prosecutors just hate. And a lot of times you'll see this in the middle of the trial. There's a juror that they know that this juror is not on our side. Sometimes you do throw up objections to try to get those jurors kicked off in the middle of trial. So ultimately, the judge is going to be looking at what the prosecutor has said, what the defense attorney has said, and then ultimately the judge will decide whether or not this juror will be kicked off this trial or this juror will stay and remain on this trial. So it'll be up to the judge to decide ultimately what happens to this juror.
So it's safe to say, Ben, if they did their research here on this specific person, but they actually say that this juror member they felt was on their side, they probably don't bring it up, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I've done, tons of trials. And by doing trials, you see that. I mean, if you see a juror that's maybe like nodding their heads yes or nodding their heads no against your client, or say you're up there doing cross-examination and this juror is not feeling you can just tell, or based on the juror questions or whatever. You might try to get a juror knocked off in the middle of trial, and you might do some more research on these jurors to make sure that these jurors will be fair to your client. And this is normal. You see this a lot in trials. You don't see it on TV, but in a regular normal trial, you do see this a lot. So this is a juror that I'm sure that the prosecutor's been looking at throughout these many weeks of trial, and this juror must be maybe looking at Sean Combs and smiling, and maybe when the prosecutor gets up to ask questions, maybe the juror just doesn't like their witnesses, and the prosecutor knows that this is a juror that they don't like, and they're going to find any sort of way to get this juror off.
And Ben, I'm so interested in this. Okay, so they see somebody, okay, that like it's probably not good for us. So what do they start doing as to start investigating this person on their social media? I mean, what can they do? Would they pretty much just try to look at every public record that this person has made?
Exactly, Mike. Maybe do a background check. Say, for example, there were some questions on their questionnaire prior to trial. So a lot of times jurors fill out these questionnaires and they deliver them to the court. And then each side, the prosecution and the defense, gets to look at these questionnaires. In the middle of trial, you can go back and look at these questionnaires. Say, for example, you had a music artist, right? You're gonna go back there and see, okay, this is a music artist. Maybe they like Sean Combs. Maybe they have friends in the prosecution area. You're going to go back and look and research to make sure that these jurors who are on the in the jury's box are being honest with you. A lot of times things move quickly in trial, so you don't have time to do a lot of research. But maybe in their downtime, they've been doing some research on this juror, and maybe this is legit evidence. Maybe the juror wasn't honest, but maybe the juror was honest, and they're just trying to find anything they can to kick the jurors off. Race was mentioned. You mentioned that this juror was an African American, juror. Sean Combs is African American, so they might just automatically feel that, hey, this juror is African American. They might like Sean Combs, so let's find a way to get this juror off. So it's not unusual for this to happen, but I have seen it happen many times in the middle of trial where doesn't like a juror and tries to do some research, social media, background checks, double checking their questionnaires. You might even hire a private investigator, Mike, to go back and do some research in the private investigator to match the juror questionnaires and say, Judge, this question that the juror answered, question number 5, doesn't match what we found out in real life. And here's some evidence on their social media. Here's some evidence. We did a background check on them.
That's great intel, Ben. All right, so let's get back now to Jane, who is back on the stand. The court today started a little bit later, so we are just getting some fresh updates as it just has been going on the last 45 minutes. So Jane is back on the stand, cross-examination happening. And once again, the defense team is really showcasing text messages and voice messages where Jane is getting excited for the next time that they're going to hang out and what it could lead to. So it looks like again and again, defense really trying to pinpoint and showcase to the jury that Jane would like to be in this relationship.
Yes, this witness Jane has been on the stand for a couple of days now, and the defense is really poking holes at what the prosecution is trying to say, trying to poke holes at the arguments, because Jane based upon text messages, based upon conversations. They are definitely showing that Jane and Sean Diddy Combs had some sort of relationship there, trying to show that it was consensual. It was a voluntary relationship, and Jane didn't feel like was in stress. The prosecution is trying to say that well she was forced to do this and she's a true victim, and that could maybe work on some jurors. But the defense is trying to show to the juror, no, she's not a true victim here. She is trying to go after Sean Combs for a lawsuit, try to get money, and she's had all these conversations with him, and she actually enjoyed being in the limelight. She enjoyed being famous. So this is what the defense attorney is trying to point at and poke the holes at to say, Jane, you're not truly a real victim here, like you're trying to claim to be.
And now we are learning from the latest in the court reports here that defense is now really detailing to Jane how Jane and Sean Combs met without having any freak-off sessions for a 2-month span back in 2022. What's the significance of this to really showcase, hey, it looks like, for that 2-month span, it was a normal relationship?
Yes, I mean the prosecution has been trying to say that these freak-offs were basically, ways that Sean, exploited women and used money to pay people to show up at these freak-offs. But for the defense to show that, oh, like 2 months prior, she still, dated Sean Combs. She still hung out with him 2 months prior before all these offs started happening. That means she was trying to get to know him, that she was like actually into him, or else she could have broken it off after month 1 or month 2. She could have ended the relationship anytime she wants. It's a mutual relationship, and that's what the defense is trying to show to the jurors, that both of these people were consenting adults here and did what they wanted to do on their own volition.
And Ben, we talked about this a little bit before earlier on in the trial, and I think it needs to be brought up though again, where how will the defense attorneys try to really showcase to the jury that, look, Sean Combs, he had a different type of lifestyle when it came to dating. It was open relationships. It was having sex with multiple partners, sometimes at the same time. That is not a normal situation for the majority of Americans. How do they get them to think like, okay, this is different, but that doesn't mean that different is bad?
And that's very hard, Mike, to do. So, because some of these jurors are gonna be like, "What in the world is going on here?" About these freak-offs. We heard testimony about Sean Combs had like 1,000 vials of baby oil in his place during these freak-offs. So yeah, you're right. The normal mindset is gonna be like, "What in the world is going on here? I don't understand." And there's some people in that juror right now might try to convict him just based upon the wild escapades that we've been hearing for. So that the defense does have a hard time to try to make him more of like a normal person. But I think they have to go back to the elements of the crime. And as if I was a defense attorney defending, Sean Diddy Combs, I would go back to, yes, he might be a monster. He might do some crazy wild things. Some of these things you might not have proof of, you might never heard of. But ultimately, we're here for a sex extortion trial. We're here for a racketeering. So no matter what the prosecutor puts up and shows videos and shows all these crazy escapades, as a defense attorney, you have to show that the bottom line here, has the prosecutor proven the case based upon the facts of the case, based upon the things that they're alleging him to do. And right now, I don't know if the prosecutor has done that. They've proved that he's a wild man and a crazy guy, but I don't know if they've proved that he's actually did extortion and racketeering and all these charges, which they are alleging for him to do.
Yeah, and I guess on the same token, I guess there's pressure too on the prosecution to, let's face it, for decades, we saw Sean Combs in a much different light, from music videos to fashion to different business opportunities. He was always on television and always on late night talk shows. So how does the prosecution really try to erase 20 to 30 years of memories for people, and then really try to pinpoint Sean Combs as a very bad guy?
Yes, I mean, the prosecutor has that hard job because history has shown that a lot of celebrities have gotten off based upon their celebrity status. I mean, Sean Combs is he's in New York. That's his home, city right there, where where he grew up, where he produced music, where he has restaurants out there. People know him. People have listened to him, and these same jurors are from that New York jurisdiction who are sitting on that jurors. That's what the prosecution is afraid of, and that's why we go back to what we originally first talked about, getting jurors off. Because a lot of these jurors probably do like him, and there's jurors out there that say, we don't care what he did. That's the guy I grew up with, listening to when I, grew up in high school or junior high, and I can't convict a celebrity. So that's going to be hard for them to convict a celebrity, and that's hard for the prosecutor to get the celebrity status out. And that's why they're trying to paint him as a monster right now. That's why they're showing all these videos of him, beating up Cassie. That's why they're trying to show all these escapades. They're trying to almost like break him down as to a little maybe person to show that he's not a celebrity. He really is a monster. And don't let the celebrity status fool you here.
That's such a great point. And lastly, Ben, what about like some of the political climate that we're seeing? Does prosecution worry about that as well? I mean, let's face it, look what's happening right now out in Los Angeles and all the stuff that's going on there. Is there ever worry that a jury or a juror member is going to be so upset at the federal government for what's going on, something totally different, but they're saying to themselves, you know what, I'm not going to let the prosecution win. I see them doing stuff that I don't feel that is aligned with me. Is there ever worry of that?
Yeah, Mike, that's an excellent question. And that's why it goes back to the jury selection process. In jury selection, both sides, prosecutor and the defense, tries to weed out the juror that they believe to be biased or not favorable towards the prosecutor or to the defense. So right now, you're seeing it, right? If people hate the government, they might not mark down their juror questionnaire. A lot of times during jury selection, jurors are not, I would say, not honest and forthcoming with their, true opinions of what they believe either of Sean Combs or the government. So both sides have to be aware of that. I mean, there's some people who might hate Sean Combs and want to be on the jurors. Some jurors remain silent because they want to be on the jurors just to convict Sean Combs. And you're right, Mike, there's some people with all these protests that are going on across the nation. Some people might be like, wait, this is the US government. This is the same government that's affiliated with ICE and all the protests that are going on. You know what? I'm going to go against the government just because I don't like the government. And that does happen. And the sad part about it, Mike, is this. It's hard to weed out these jurors because, like I said before, jurors remain silent. They're not right and forthcoming a lot of the times. And you have no idea what their thoughts are in their head, their true thoughts in their heads when they get on these jurors. So right now, there could be some people who hate Sean Combs and hate his music and want to convict him just because of that. There's some people on there who are like, I don't care what Sean Combs did. I hate the government, and I'm going to, say not guilty no matter what Sean Combs did, even if the state proved their case.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, and there's so many layers to this to really think about. So, Ben, thanks again for joining us here on Live Now from Fox, and we will see what the rest of the day has in store for Jane on the stand. But we appreciate your insight as always, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. All right, thanks, Mike.
No problem. You take care. All right, everyone, and we'll continue to bring you the latest here of Sean Combs on trial in just moments. I'm not coming to New York. You just want me there for a hotel bench. The prosecution says, why did you say that? Jane says, I saw a podcast. Prosecution says, what was the podcast about? Jane says, Sean bragging about having sex for 48 hours straight on a yacht trip to an island near Miami. Prosecution says, when did the podcast come out? Jane says, about a month after Sean told me that he'd take me on that yacht trip. Prosecution says, what had Sean said that he'd do with you on this yacht trip? Combs's attorney objected. The judge overruled at that time. Jane says, he said after 2 nights in a hotel that we'd head to the yacht for more, but we never left. We had to recuperate. Later, I saw on social media he took a girlfriend there instead. Prosecution says, what did you write in your notes app? Jane says, I wrote, I don't want to come to New York to be treated like a hoe. Prosecution says, why did you write that there? Jane says, I wasn't sure I was going to send it. Prosecution says, but did you eventually send a version of it? Jane says, yes. Prosecution says, what did Sean reply? Jane says, he said, it was just podcast talk. I told him, you took her to the Bahamas on a yacht, not me, like you'd promised after the hotel night. Prosecution says, can you read your text aloud? Jane says, I quoted his podcast words. You made Papa proud. Prosecution says, you wrote, I don't want to feel obligated that you'll stop paying my rent. What did you mean? Jane says, the guilt-tripping things he would say, like I had to perform. Prosecution says, how long had you been feeling that way? Jane says, since I got the home in April of 2023. Prosecution says, let's play this recording. And then it's Combs's voice saying, this is a real open relationship, so why are you making it an issue? I'm feeling sick now. Prosecution says, what was your response? Jane says, I asked him to call me back. We then had a FaceTime call. He reassured me and eased my worries. Prosecution says, what did you send Sean from the plane to New York? Jane says, a photo of my outfit. Prosecution says, where were you planning to wear it? Jane says, to dinner. Prosecution says, what did Sean say? Jane says, he said, we're going to dinner. Prosecution says, did you go? Jane says, yes, to a late night lounge event. Prosecution then asked, I'll read this message you wrote. I missed hard D. Jane says, yes, I also wrote, yes, I have my passport with me. Prosecution says, what did you write next? Jane says, you turned me on so crazy, can't wait. Prosecution says, did you send this right after the flight took off? Jane says, yes. Then I got a message from Sean. Prosecution says, what did Sean ask you? Jane says, he asked where Sly was, then says, entertainment or movie night, let me know, I'll get a hotel. Prosecution then says, how did that make you feel? Jane says, I felt upset and a little defeated. Prosecution says, what did you send next? Jane says, I replied, baby, just got Wi-Fi again. Prosecution says, what did Sean write? Jane said, he said, check red phone, referring to another message he sent me. He also said, I have a surprise for you, just one. Prosecution says, what do you think he meant? Jane says that there would be someone new, and then she started to cry. Prosecution says, who? Jane says, an entertainer. I hated it. Prosecution says, what message did Sean send you? Jane says, he sent a photo of the man. I rolled my eyes and told him, I'm not loading. We're about to land. Prosecution says, what did you tell Sean after that? Jane says, I recommended we go to a hotel, but I ended up at the Trump Hotel where I changed my outfit. Prosecution says, what happened that night? Jane says, he arrived late. We went to the lounge and had a bit of an argument. Jane says, he was defensive. Later, we went to the room and Sly showed up. Prosecution says, what did you text Sly? Jane says, I asked if he could come to New York because I felt like I needed to make things right with Sean. Prosecution says, did Sly come to the Trump Hotel and did you and he have sex in front of Sean? Jane says, yes. Prosecution says, after that trip to New York, where did you see Sean next? Jane says, in Miami at a hotel. Prosecution says, did the two of you take these photos? Jane says, yes. Jane then says, Sly was in Miami with us too. After that, I returned to LA and we had an argument. Prosecution says, what was it about? Jane says, he wanted to organize a party and asked me to contact some entertainers, but I saw something online. He was with one of his ex-girlfriends. I was upset. Prosecution then asked, did you ever talk to any of these other women directly? Jane says, no, I only found out through Instagram. Prosecution says, let's look at these texts from October 15th, 2023. Please read what you wrote. Jane says, I texted, you got that girl next to you. Her BS already starting. Prosecution says, what did you mean by that? Jane says, that there was already drama. I told Sean, introduce her to P. Prosecution says, who is P? Jane says, Paul, one of the entertainers. Then I messaged Sean, I'm not a porn star. These experiences are desensitizing sex for me. Prosecution says, and this message from October 16th, 2023, part of the same argument, please read it. Jane says, I don't want to be used for sex in those rooms. I felt more pressure than the others, just like there was an imbalance. I had to work just to get the basics in our relationship. Jane said, meanwhile, he gave love and romance freely to others, so I knew he was capable, just not with me. Then I wrote, it's been 3 years of me having to sleep with strangers. He replied, so we're breaking up? Prosecution says, were you trying to end the relationship?
What can you say? You like it? Huh? You like it? Huh? Your turn. Your turn. Huh? Your turn. Your turn.
What did you do?